Well, howdy, my rowdies, and welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where we learn things throughout the week and bring the best of those learnings right back to you fine folks. This is episode 93, recorded July 27th, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader. We are joined today, once again, by Mr. Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous, on a, you said 1 week break from school, and then you've got
No.
4 more weeks, and then you'll be back.
No, it's a holiday. It happens to be a holiday in Thailand, so it is the present king's birthday, I believe, Rama the 10th. Yeah. So I'm off school for today, and then tomorrow I go back.
Okay. Well,
Most
nice
people have like a 4-day weekend going on, but not me.
No.
Not my school. So yeah, it's cool. It's good to be back.
Yeah. Down below me, we have Mr. Colton Roper, also known as Seeker 4761. In the diagonal, we have Tim Rhind, also known as Fake Farang. So yeah, how are you guys today?
Doing well.
Yes. Very good. Feeling good.
Cool.
I'm happy to be back. I'm doing good. It's it doesn't quite look like this behind, actually around me, but it's a morning thunderstorm here in wonderful rainy season Thailand, which
It's
we had
actually
some
overcast here too, and down about 2.5 hours south of Cody, it's overcast, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of a nice break from the sun and the heat. Actually,
yeah. I
Overcast
actually
and thunderstorming here too, but it has no bearing on you guys.
hey,
Thunderstorm
it's
here.
Good.
We've
got.
Oh, it's just.
We have the same monsoon season you do, Dracanis. Actually, if it rains in Tucson, generally within 24 to 48 hours, it will rain in Gunnison.
Well, yeah.
From
you
the same.
I are tied together weather-wise, but
exactly.
We're all in monsoon season. Actually, the soy out front of my condo flooded the other day, which was it's interesting because like the flood, it was probably about like knee to waist deep in water on the road.
Ooh.
Yeah, like a car drove by and like drove kind of fast and created this wake that came up and then washed like trash bags up on the place. But it was interesting seeing like, motorcycles try to get started and like move through it. And it was most like it was still flooded by the time the next morning rolled around and I had to go to school. But after that, when I got back from school, it was completely dry. So, but it was like the most rain that Thailand has seen in one day in almost 10 years, I think.
Right.
Or Bangkok has seen, specifically Bangkok. Because other provinces, I was talking with a taxi driver and he was saying other provinces have way more flooding issues than Bangkok does. That Bangkok actually gets off pretty well compared to other places where it's like,
it's less here.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you're in the dry, one of the driest places.
Yeah. Anyways, don't want to rush everybody, but I see that my time is 10 to 11, and I got to leave by 12:30.
Okay.
If we could move on to our topics.
Well, yeah. So this week I am taking a little bit of a break. Don't have a topic, but Cody is going to talk about maybe the more important I, and it's a single letter I, not
or an L.
I like eyeball.
Could be an L for all we know. We don't know. We never know because Calibri and Microsoft. I'll bring that up every week until they fix it. Thank you very much.
So we'll hear about that every week from
every
now
goddamn
until
week. The end of days.
Or at least the interview.
There was a guy in Final Fantasy XI that named his name like ILL something, and it just looked like 3 L's. So you're going to be complaining about this for a long time, Colton.
Long time. Anyway.
And I still remember how this format goes, I think. And Colton is going to tell us that it turns out brown can actually do a lot for us. So is Colton working in UPS now or something? Or what's
Thank you for
Maybe-
getting that. I
maybe-
was hoping somebody would get the reference. I wasn't sure. I'm like,
what can brown do for you?
It'd be nice if they could actually deliver to my address and not across the street for some reason.
Mm.
Well, for us, maybe Tricanus is not included in the subset of us.
Yeah, apparently my underground dwelling is just not deliverable too. People just see the numbers upstairs and forget about the A and the B downstairs, but whatever. I'm not salty.
but who is salty?
I am.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Tim is going to talk about 2 Timbits as well as a little bit of history. And luckily, he doesn't have to introduce anybody this week because I wouldn't call myself the producer, but the script writer today did not do his job and clean it up. So that's my bad, boys. But we'll keep going on because the show must go on.
Indeed it must. It's Cody. Tell us about the eye. And not the eye of the storm, most likely.
Actually, I wrote that incorrectly, but I wrote it incorrectly on purpose because it's not I as in the English I. In Thai, there are 2 different eyes. So there's Sarah I Maimalai, which looks like, this. And then there's Sarah I Muan, which actually looks like this. And actually, I like that one better. I don't know. There's something more satisfying about writing that because it's like a squiggly down below and a squiggly up top.
The official term is squiggly.
The official term. But there are, when you're learning Thai, they'll tell you that there are 20 words that use that other special I. And while that is somewhat correct, that is like 1/10 of the story. And let me pull up a background. Okay, so can you guys see this correctly, first of all?
Yep.
Okay.
Straight to me.
Yeah. As long as we're not using my video, it will appear right.
It's fine.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Fine.
Anyway, so the first one is yai, as in big, so low tone, yai. The second one is mai, as in new. There's actually a funny video because you might know, like, depending on how you pronounce my means totally different things. But there's this really cool TikTok, which I'll have to find a way of actually posting the link because I still haven't figured out how to actually share TikTok links because I'm not a member of TikTok. So I might have to ask somebody else who uses TikTok to get this. Okay. Yeah. There's a brilliant video that's hilarious about this. That might be my only reason of using TikTok. Oh. And then there's hi, which hi has a ton of different meanings to it. So, like, as you see, it says for or to give. Like this morning when I was ordering my food, I basically asked the person who was, delivering my food to give the food to the guard. But it can also be used for like a mother that's telling a child to eat until, like, it can be used kind of until as well. It's got a ton of meanings for that word. Then there's a word that actually I have only ever read one time, which is sapai. So daughter-in-law. Again, I'm going through this really slowly, and I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. So you've got to use chai, chai, and then you've got to pay attention to, fight. Then you've got, now here's the one that I have bolded and underlined, because this is where, when they say that there's 20 words that use this letter, the Sarah I Maimuan, when you get to Tai, you actually, Tai has so many compound words to it. Like, yes, Tai is one word, but there's a bazillion different Tais. Like, so there was somebody who was writing, actually a pretty well renowned author in Thailand, who I forget their name now, but wrote like a bunch of drime crime novels and detective novels about Bangkok. Strangely enough, I can remember like the main character's name in the novel that I have never read, but I can't remember the author's name. Vincent Caldino series.
Albino.
Yeah. Do you remember the author's name?
No, but I can look it up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anyway, there was an episode of the Bangkok podcast where they interviewed the author, and the author was talking about asking, wait, how many, because he was having his books translated, how many, Chai words are there? And, the person who was translating said, oh, about 35. And then as he went and looked at his book, he noticed that there were way more. It was like 73. And then, asked again, oh, actually about 73. And then finally, after, many years of writing books, he's got like 253 different Thai words. And it can be anything from just, Thai, which is like heart. But that's only really telling you, like, the actual word for like physical heart is actually huatai, which actually is kind of a compound word of like head and heart, but it's like the heart. But there's also like a lot of feeling words. Like, there's actually 2 words in Thai for surprised. One with
That
a
surprises me.
negative.
Christopher G.
Exactly.
Moore is the name.
Yes, Christopher G. Moore is the author that we're talking about. So there's actually a bunch of different. So there's 2 different words for surprise. So one is Colton was expressing plekchai, which is like surprised, but a positive surprise. Where then there's the one like somebody like gets behind you in a dark room and scares you, which would be tokchai, which is like a like not happy surprise. Then there's gamlangtai, which is to like comfort somebody. There's siachai, which is like you're sad. Sontai, which is like interested in something. So there's a billion different of these words that all use, that are like Thai words, and all use this interesting character, which is just, I don't know. I have this like weird fixation on like the feeling of something when I write it, and I just love writing this character because it's it's squiggly. Yeah, you got the squiggles. I enjoy that.
I find it strange that character has completely, when you see it in the word, what you're saying the words are, I'm trying to say what the heck does that character actually sound like, because I'm not seeing it's the first character in each of those words.
But
they
okay,
start
so
off with a consonant.
yeah. Okay, so some vowels in Thai come before the consonants, but they're pronounced after the consonant.
Okay.
For instance, the long O, the O is, for instance, my name. If I write it in Thai, I would say Sara O Kokwai Dodek Sara E, because that O actually is written before the Kokwai, which is the letter for C. One of the letters for C. Yeah, so certain of them, like the letter for E or the letter for A, are all written before the consonant. So in order to have that sound, like say like you wanted to write the word okay, which actually Thai people use that a lot, and it's actually written like okay, meaning okay. You would actually have to use this other letter. There's a special letter in Thai called ang, which can either have an aw sound or it can have a nothing sound. So you would actually write the vowel, and then you would write that ang, and then you for like okay, you would write actually you have two. Yeah, so it would be Sera o ang kokwai or sorry, Sera e kokwai would be actually how you write that. But anyway, that's my short topic is Sera I, my one, which is just a cool squiggly letter. I love it. Clearly, I've actually forgotten how this works, even though I kind of remembered. Well, now that I'm done talking about I, let's talk about you, Tim.
Okay. Two little tidbits and some history here. This one is I found this interesting, and I don't understand this fact at all. But cassette tapes are apparently coming back in style. Sales of cassettes doubled in from 2020 to 2021. And there's even a couple of artists, Billie Eilish, The Weeknd, Ozzy Osbourne, and a few others who have actually released albums on cassette tape. Why I don't know.
Is
Because
this
the sound quality isn't good like on an LP. But yeah, it's evidently they've doubled. Must be a nostalgia kick again.
or maybe okay, the cynic in me says it's the media recording companies have lost too much money, with artists trying to do things digitally on their own, that they want a physical medium in order to sell and a reason to exist. So that's why they're doing it. But that's just the random cynic in me saying that,
Yeah.
which could have absolutely no bearing. Or maybe people just, our life is too digital. People want something tangible, and the records are, LPs are too big. So cassette tapes, they're small.
Yeah.
They smell like the 80s,
My next topic. Going to move right on. I'm sorry, I'm rushing, but I want to make sure I have some time here. Next little one is, and it kind of ties into when we were talking about AI art last week. Any of those sites better not use any of Picasso's work in their algorithms.
You got to come back from the dead and kill them, kill the AIs.
A court has overturned a prior ruling that Picasso's art or photographs of Picasso's art are fair use. That's now been ruled that they are not fair use. And a guy who did an art history book was actually sued, and the case on appeal. First time he won it, but then on appeal, he lost it. And I'll post the link. I don't want to go too much detail, but it's something that you might want to look into, because that's if those people are doing the AI thing, they really can't use it, I guess.
It means you couldn't.
Nobody has said anything. It wasn't mentioned in the article, but I was wondering if it's because Picasso has not been dead for 100 years. It's usually books and all that.
Is this in the United States? Like, where's this? Where did this happen?
Okay, I'll go right to the article. Yes, it's the United States. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit overturned a court's lower ruling that reproduction of the images was fair use. So that's been now overturned.
So weird. Like, I know, like, the big thing with copyright in the United States is like Disney push, like, keeping the fair use thing or whatever that term is for their, like, Mickey Mouse should be fair use by now. Copyright thing, like by far, by like 20 years ago kind of situation. Yeah. So it's interesting that I wonder what was the logic behind that.
And I think they finally had to let Steamboat Willie actually go. So Steamboat Willie we might start getting like horror remakes or tentacle prawn remakes.
Hell yeah. I mean, no.
Starting
Ew.
anytime soon.
So it
Rule
must have.
34.
I'm guessing their logic with that is like Disney doesn't actively use Steamboat Willie. So even though they owned it and created it, they don't actively use it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. So I'm wondering if that applies to Picasso in this case, because the man's not here.
So is like Picasso's family the thing behind this, or did Picasso sell the right?
No, I
Yeah,
guess it's somebody. Okay, the catalog was purchased. Was bought in by a person, a French citizen. He bought all the intellectual property of Cashier's d'Art, and that was, I guess, that catalog included these Picasso paintings. So this guy actually required permission from the artist's family to publish his book, The Picasso Project. Okay, but the guy who actually owned the catalog of the art said he wanted all the books seized, and so they seized them all because he said they were copyright infringement because he was the
because they
owner of
sold
the.
the rights. Okay, I can understand the logic to that, because if they sold the rights to Picasso's art to somebody else, then somebody else legitimately owns it. Like,
So it's not. Yeah, I posted the link, but I'm going to move on
okay,
to my. I'm not trying to subdue
your next
conversation,
Timbit.
but
Yeah,
I usually
that's
have
okay.
nothing to talk about, and now I got stuff to talk about, and it's crazy. Okay, put my notes up here. Now this one, I did a little more research than is in the article. I added a few more things, and I hope it's not too long. And I'm basically going to be reading by my notes. Maybe I got too much here. Um, but can you name 5 secret societies that had an influence on the world?
Illuminati, Freemasons.
Illuminati's not one.
Really?
Well, this
We're talking about real. We're talking like secret. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I see what you're saying. Like real societies that
Templar?
have secretive practices.
Oh, Templar. Yep.
Templars,
Yeah,
Knights
Templar.
Templar.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
trying to remember all of my.
Freemasons, Templar.
Shit.
Yeah, Freemasons, Templar are the only ones I can really.
I only can think of the American
Yeah.
ones. I don't know the world ones very
National
well.
Treasure. National
Yeah,
Treasure.
I'm
has
basing this
ruined
on an
my brain.
article. I'm basing this on an article in the National Geographic, and I've added more to it as well. The first one is the Oracle of Delphi, or Delphi. That was the 8th to the 6th century BC, and in Greece, of course. And to give a little description of that organization, it actually originated in a location where vapors from the ground were brain altering, and as a result, they decided to build a temple there. The temple was dedicated to Apollo, and it was a place of daily worship. Um, now, 9 days a year, a special medium known as the Pythia, and it was always the high priestess, and it was a female. Well, you wouldn't be a high priestess for very long because sometimes you died during this process. Anyway, she would preside for those who had made significant contributions to the temple. She basically would succumb to these fumes, or perhaps some drugs they gave them. She would, move in a dance, and then she'd probably writhe, and she'd make a lot of strange noises. The sounds she made were interpreted by the priests, and it seems like I said, this trance was often fatal. Um, evidently, if I recall, one of the stories was that a leader of one country or one town or whatever, one nation, came to them and asked, "Should I invade this country?" And the answer given was, not if you should invade, but if you invade, one civilization will be over, or something like this. And yeah, so the guy invaded, and he lost, and his civilization was over.
Dumbass.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
huh.
So they kind of gave answers just like fortune tellers do these days. It can be interpreted so many different ways. They're never wrong. But anyways, an analysis of the ground and rocks below the temple indicate the presence of ethylene, a sweet-smelling gas, ethane and methane. So that's the first secret society.
So
The
they were
second
getting
one-
high on gas. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Cool.
dying in gas. Yeah. So once that one died, the next person got appointed the head priestess, and until next year, if you didn't survive. The cult of Mithras was another one. That was the first century AD Rome, and it was inspired by the Indian and Persian divinity known as Mithras. It was largely followed by soldiers and merchants and focused on glorifying war, overcoming evil. It was known as a god of light, truth, and honor. They would gather in cave like spaces like the catacombs in groups of 30 and 40 and conduct secret ceremonies. The Roman emperor didn't have any problems with them because what things they believed, like war and honor and all like that, weren't a problem for the empire. They were actually competition for the early Christians, and the Christians eventually suppressed them, and they've disappeared. But I guess they had effect on the power structure of Rome for quite a while. Then we go to the Knights Templar, and the origin of the Knights Templar was actually kind of interesting. The article actually sort of claims them as being the first roadside AA group. Like automobile association. Um, Anyways, after the First Crusade, Jerusalem was occupied by the Christians, but it was dangerous for Christian pilgrims to travel to Jerusalem through the Muslim lands. So the Knights were formed to assist the pilgrims. So, like I say, as one article called them, they were the first roadside assistance group. Eventually, they grew into a paramilitary unit, and although they weren't monks by the strictest sense, they were sometimes described as warrior monks. After the last crusade, they didn't have a mission or strong purpose, and King Philip IV, France, was in debt to them financially, and he, basically motivated by that, brought about their demise with false accusations in order to obtain their wealth. There's a lot more you can discuss on all these subjects, but I'm just trying to give you some interesting points that I found were new to me. And not the last one, the fourth one is the Freemasons. They, of course, were alleged to have helped plot the American and French revolutions. I know they're supposed to have something to do with the design of Washington. And actually, they were very much involved in the Parliament buildings in Manitoba. There's a really interesting tour that people can take and find out how the Freemasons or the Freemason came into the architecture of that place. You can find it online as well. But anyways, notable members throughout history have included George Washington, Voltaire, Mozart, Houdini, Franklin Roosevelt, and Churchill. Started off as a stonemason society, but their reason for being sort of involved into other topics as an intellectual group of sorts. They discussions of republicanism, anti-monarchism, and constitutional government. They were basically a non-religious group and didn't align with any one political ideology, with members being influential in their public lives. So it's probably like one place where a Republican, if you use the U.S. example, somebody who is political can actually really exchange ideas. So that they definitely had an effect.
I always think about that Simpsons episode with the stonecutters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ring that gives you the free Cokes and the vending machine and
Hell yeah.
I have to watch this.
Here's one that I'd like to cover in more detail. I really simplified it, but I don't know, my pronunciation may be terrible. It's called Tian Tui and Hongmen. This is a Chinese group. They were in the 18th century, sort of started around 1761, known as the Society of Heaven and Earth. They started off with migrant workers forming mutual aid groups when they were in other provinces, but then they returned to their province of Fujian in 1761, and they formed this group, the Tianwei, as a way of overthrowing corrupt officials of the Qing dynasty. They created secret hand signals, secret codes, and a complex initiation ceremony. They were forced underground by the Qing dynasty and were a resistant movement to that dynasty. They actually supported themselves by a Robin Hood style of armed robbery, and they became known by many names, one of them being the Hongmen. Members of the Hongmen included Chiang Kai-shek, the founder of Taiwan. They did fail at their attempts at rebellion, and then there were spin-off groups after they sort of lost their main cause, but many groups utilized the structure that they had, and they actually became gangsters. And one of the most well-known of these spin-off groups is the Chinese Triads. And so I went through it really quick. If you have any discussion, I can try. I'll put I have all the links in, or some of the links, most of them, in the show notes. And that is my topic today. And so
That's
I guess
interesting.
Okay.
The last group in some ways like sounds like some like kind of mafia in the US a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially early on.
Yeah. It's interesting Timbits there. I love that term,
Yeah.
by the way. Timbits. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
Colton
you.
for that one. That's a good one.
Okay, and next up is Colton. Turns out Brown can actually do a lot for us.
So much, apparently. So goddamn much. So, well, I was going to say it was a bit of a short one. At least that's how I started my script, and then I ended up being my normal type 12, so we'll see what happens here. But, so we here at TWIL have actually talked a lot about future tech. That seems to be a key staple of what we like to talk about here. A few times we've talked about the future of electricity and power production and stuff like that. From sunless solar panels to geothermal power, the future of electricity generation is interesting, at the very least, and is paramount to the very future of humanity. And we're kind of living through the start of a revolution in energy production, or at least things that were once thought to be physically impossible are becoming possible through scientific and technological breakthroughs. So I have a question for you guys, though. See if you remember your physics back in the day. Have you guys ever heard of a term called Brownian motion?
No.
Nothing to do with the toilet, right?
Nope, not in the slightest.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm aware of the brown note.
Nope,
I am
nope.
not aware of the motion.
It's also important to chemistry
Brownian
as well.
motion.
Brownian
Heard of it, but I
motion.
can't remember.
Well, you may have maybe not the physical term, but you know what this is. So Brownian motion is the random, uncontrolled movement of particles in a fluid as they are constantly colliding with each other. So think about it as like the vibrations of atoms in relation to one another. Hi, Bruhita. Thanks for ruining our podcast. Love it.
No, she's
No,
a star.
I think cats always make video content better.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Be weird. All right. So you think about grade school and how we learned about the basic states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. We know from other TWIL episodes that there are more states of matter, but these are the three basic ones everyone knows about. In a solid, the atoms are pretty much stationary. A liquid, they are moving around a little bit more, and in a gas, the atoms are moving around wildly. Brownian motion is essentially the macro picture of how those particles interact with each other. Brownian motion has been studied for decades, and it was fundamentally believed that the motion of the particles, while it does create a tiny bit of thermal energy, it cannot produce any sort of actual work, meaning electricity, potentially. Well, at least that's what they thought until about 2021 or so. Again, very controversial idea, because apparently scientists actually fought over the idea of Brownian motion actually being able to create work, because I don't know if you guys have heard of the scientist Richard Feynman. Yeah, pretty famous guy. Yeah, he's a famous, Feynman, famous scientist, and kind of a weird, like, sycophantic thing of like, oh, well, Feynman said it's not possible, so therefore everyone who says otherwise is fucking wrong. It's actually quite fascinating. A bunch of catty bitches, those scientists sometimes. But turns out a team at the University of Arkansas, or Arkansas, as some Americans, I guess, pronounce it, they found a loophole in that idea by using the wonder material graphene. So, graphene
Wow, what graphene can't do for you?
it's
Right?
unfucking-believable.
It's amazing.
It's so cool.
graphene plus carbon nanotubes will rule the modern era.
Well, graphene,
Oh my God.
carbon nanotubes is graphene, just rolled up.
Yeah. Just
yeah,
imagine when they make a 3D print filament that is graphene.
Oh, yeah.
I think there are some printers that can do that of some sort.
Oh, I'm sure there's some high level stuff.
and Dracanis' next
but
sprint.
high level. No, yeah, but
So graphene is considered, and I didn't realize this, it was considered the world's first 2D material. It's basically a single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a hexagonal structure. And my notes went away because Microsoft is killing me.
Molecule thick.
Yeah, it's literally one molecule thick is kind of the idea behind it. It's the structure itself is considered one of the strongest materials in the known universe, but also has strange other properties as well. So the team at the University of Arkansas used one of these properties to find a loophole in the fact that Brownian motion can't do work theory. They took a sheet of negatively charged graphene, stuck it between two electrodes, and utilized the Brownian motion / vibration of the graphene itself to create an electric current. And because of how it is structured, it's not random. So anytime one moves, everything else moves. It's almost more like how I would describe it is like, think about like when water boils, how you have all those little bubbles and all the random little fluctuations. That's essentially what graphene does at that level, apparently. And they were able to.
So you have tidal, tidal energy, but like wave energy based off of a sheet of graphene is
exactly
almost what I'm picturing.
That's one way to look at it. It's weird at that level. At the quantum level, it's hard to explain, but it's weird, cool little properties. And again, it's based on how they're connected to each other. They're able to kind of weirdly flow, but not really. It's utterly fascinating and way above my pay grade here at TWIL. But so yeah, basically the structure of the graphene sort of amplifies the random fluctuations in that sheet. That's the loophole in this case. So using this little experiment, they were able to generate 10 microwatts, which was able to actually be generated here, which is nothing, basically. It's not a lot. It's unbelievably tiny, but it was generated with no input, meaning it is limitless and is completely clean as well. It is free, limitless energy. Just happens to be a very, 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 very tiny amount.
And you have to have the graphene. So it's still like...
But the actual generation...
It is the production of... Yeah, the generation is clean.
Once it is built, it's always... It can always produce. That's the point. You don't have to add more into the system.
That's absolutely cool.
Oh.
Right? And again, this wasn't possible up until 2021. This wasn't even a thought. They're like, no, it's bullshit. Richard Feynman, he's God. Not even going to look at it. And they're like, oh, well, hold my beer. We're going to make fucking energy out of nothing. Those crazy guys in Arkansas. So, obviously, if you start thinking about it, this is actually a big deal no matter how small the actual output is. Because a future with limitless low voltage power can change all sorts of things. Sensors, small devices in general, NFC, like an NFC chip in your phone, stuff like that.
Especially
smartwatch.
Especially constant low voltage power.
Medical devices like pacemakers. That's what I was trying to figure out with Cody earlier. Whatever the fuck those things are called. Pacemakers. They never need to be replaced. If you build them right, you put it in, runs literally forever. So you take that. That's kind of where they're thinking. So there's some scientists are saying, well, we got to be able to put it into a battery, which is kind of the next idea, is to be able to take that. I think I want to say they were able to create an AC current as well as a DC current based on positions of where the electrodes are. It's super cool what they were able to do. Now they got to utilize it. Freaking wild, right? So, as we said earlier, graphene is incredibly strong, and it's kind of like the building material of the future. We're talking superstructures the size of, I don't know, space elevators is kind of the concept. I read
structure could be a power source too. That'd be bizarre. Boom,
Tim nailed it. Think of a car. Think of an electric car built out of graphene. How about this? Like carbon nanotubes for the frame, graphene sheets along the panels, electrodes all over the place. That's free. That's potentially free energy, just always being generated. Combine that with other
real estate.
It's free real estate. Yeah. Combine that with other technologies, solar panels. The efficiency problem again kind of goes away because you have supplemental stuff and it's free. Doesn't cost any energy. Add that to brake regeneration for stuff for recharging the battery, and your 250-mile range electric car suddenly becomes what? 400, 800. If they refine the technology enough, it continues to generate. It's always charging. So
at night, you might actually plug it into your house to charge your house if your house isn't made out of graphene because you've topped off the batteries already.
Exactly. You don't have the electric. Yeah, this is maybe 50, 60 years in the future, maybe. But the fact they were able to do the impossible, and this is just a. I mean, we know it's a wonder material, graphene, but think about other materials as the need arises, as they understand chemistry better, as scientists understand physics better, as they're able to create special materials that have amazing properties. Apply that to all the problems, a lot of the problems that we have.
Yeah. This is such a huge deal for the fact that it is constant energy at a low wattage, because like working back in Internet Colorado, we had the issue with a lot of electronics, and the thing that you don't realize about specifically networking electronics is they have to be on 24/7. So if you can, and they don't use depending on servers use a crap ton of power, but your random radio, your random switch doesn't necessarily
capacitors were something I was thinking of. You could build potentially better, more efficient batteries as combined to current battery technologies, combined with the fact that the battery itself can potentially generate electricity, never runs out, able to keep at a constant, whatever you call it, constant voltage or whatever. Like, and again, this is only happened like a year ago. So this all might be a pipe dream, but the fact this is the amazing part about it. The fact that they were able to take something that wasn't possible and they made it happen.
Hmm. Yeah,
maybe the future isn't as dark as we thought.
No, and we discussed some other new battery technologies and materials on this podcast, and you
combine that with
diamond batteries,
spaceships in general. Imagine power or long-term spaceship always generating electricity, there. It's charging the warp engines. Like it's really, the more you think about it, you're like, it's not as far out as it used to be. It's like, now it's here. Now there's a glimmer of interesting thoughts. It's the thought experience. The thought experiments are being applied in real life is kind of what a lot of the things we've been talking about on this podcast in general. Like these ideas that were impossible. Hey, wait. I mean, warp technology, the warp bubble concept. Oh, that actually turns out that's kind of real. Oh shit. Like it all comes together.
Science is now starting to look for those solutions to the so-called global warming problem, and they're finding things, but it's because they weren't really looking before.
It's a combination of they're looking now, and they're thinking the old ways of thinking. What was it? Is it Einstein who said that you can't solve the problems that you created with the same thinking that created them or something like that? It's not perfect, but you need to have a different kind of mindset in terms of science and technology. If you have a problem, you can't necessarily just say the old ways are just what it is. Sometimes it's like, well, let's try this fucking idea. I don't fucking know what's going to happen. Now we just have a sheet of graphene. Doesn't work well? Didn't work. Now we know.
Yeah.
But it did work. So,
Nice.
sorry. I was fucking excited when I read that. That was cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool.
But I'm not used to ending this, so being the last one, this is weird. It's different. Do you want me to flow, or do you want to do it, Brandon?
No, flow.
I shall
my
flow.
friend. Flow.
Let's keep the flow. Let's keep the
Flow,
electricity.
like graphene.
Yes,
Exactly.
creating electricity. Let's keep the electricity going and say, Cody, where the hell can people find you on the internet?
Greetings. Or salutations, I suppose, is more honest at this point. I am Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous, also known as Cito Valder. You can find me eagerly waiting for patch 3.17.2 for Star Citizen. So you can find me there as Psychonitrous. You can find me on YouTube as Striving to Fail, as in striving to fail to put up YouTube videos. I actually have footage for something that I'm going to put in, and actually I've solved a problem that was a thought problem that I'm taking this way too long as far as my segment goes. But anyway, you can find me there. And I once wrote an article for the Tech Pirate. So go to the Tech Pirate and probably look at other articles. Yep, that's where you can find me. Tim, where can we find you, good sir?
On YouTube, Our Thai Journey. I haven't edited a video in such a long time. I have so much stuff I could edit, but now it's getting dated. But last week I went to a Turian farm, otherwise known in English as a durian farm, but Thais actually call it Turian.
I didn't know that.
That was actually pretty interesting.
Tahan.
And so I went there with some friends on our bikes, and I'm going to try to commit myself to editing that one and putting it up. So,
Fuck yeah.
Colton.
The name is Colton Roper. I go by Seeker4761 on all the socials. Twitch.tv/Seeker4761. Oh.
How many varieties of durian there are, or Turian?
I still have yet to try durian, so I need to.
Or how many Thais there are? How many Thai words? We're bringing it back. I tried to do it before. We're bringing it back again.
Twitch.tv/Seeker4761, where I stream pretty regularly on Tuesdays and maybe eventually Wednesdays someday. Maybe a different day with Way Out Wednesdays with Dracanis here. And I'm also a contributor to the techpirate.net, where you can find news, reviews, gripes, and more about the tech world and stuff like that in general. But you know who also is a contributor, and maybe even the owner? Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I am Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis, and also kind of becoming known as Captain's Bed. Well, I run a Twitch channel that is Captain's
Twitch,
Bed.
not OnlyFans. Just
not
to let you
OnlyFans.
know.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Although, if you want to be my bedmate, you can go to my Patreon and become a Captain Dracanis bedmate, which gets you some fun access with my printing channel and some
his
printing
filament.
downloads. Yes.
It's
I
Lacey
lay
filament.
that filament
Lays down his
down
filament.
Just
hot
right.
and meaty.
On that hot, heated bed.
Mm.
On that heated bed.
If that doesn't make you sweat, I don't know what will.
And demonetized.
Oh, yeah.
Had a good run, boys.
Yeah. I have started getting Captain Dracanis on all the socials. So Instagram, you can find me as Captain Dracanis. You'll see a lot of the 3D printing action and yeah,
just
a lot of fun. It's
be sure. Is it full Captain
Dracanis.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
All of it. All of it.
All the Captain.
My logo has
Alrighty.
I think my logo has Captain Drac. I have another one that is just Capt Dracanis. But yes, the actual name that you'll find me on the socials is Captain Dracanis.
Captain Boy, the Captain Boy. Okay, I won't sing that song. You know that one?
I don't think I'm
No.
familiar with that
Okay.
one. We'll have
After
to
show.
after the show.
Cap- Captain
After the
Morgan,
about-
Captain
how about-
Crunch,
oh, the
Captain
after show.
Janice. Oh,
Yep.
oh.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you all for joining. Oh, I forgot to throw it to thetechpirate.net. Go to thetechpirate.net too. We have content there, and I am actually working on the review for my framework. I'm finishing that up. I've had it for like almost 6 months now. I fucking love it. Just a little teaser. I fucking love it. If you're in the need for a laptop, get a framework.
The twist is he hates it. Anyway.
Nope. There is not enough money that someone could offer me to be like, you will never own or solicit for framework again. No.
Represent.
It is DIY friendly and amazing. Anyway, don't want to give it all away. Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, of course, you can send an email to twill@thetechpirate.net. And we will see you all. Not next week. We are taking 1 week break off, I believe. I am going to pick my kiddo up. He's been in California for the last, too long. Last several weeks, and it is time for him to be back. I am greatly excited about going to Denver and picking him up. Picking
Pick him up.
next week. Anyway, so we will see you 2 weeks from now.
Bye. And I was waving goodbye.
Oh.
I
This is
realized.
like the second goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.
This
I
is
guess.
like the,
Bye.
Bye.
Is this
Bye.
like the American version of like the little heart thing that they do here, or oh?
I don't know what that little heart thing is, so I don't know what the American version of that would be.
It's this. It's the little heart.
Oh, that's actually adorable. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it is.
All right. Check it out. See, it looks like a heart. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, never mind.